Guys, I'll do a quick voice message on continue rest of the career because let's it's sensitive information because we're going to talk about big Qualcomm stage of work. That's why I start the top of the thing. So Qualcomm, when I was joining, Qualcomm was not in India. The first time they were entering, and I was interviewed in the month of January 2004. 2004, right? It's about you can calculate how many years before, right? So during January I was interviewed, and there are 5 rounds of interview, 4 technical rounds and HR round. So person from the hardware background, digital design background interviewed. His name is Pradeep Mishra. They all came from San Diego to interview the people here because they are setting up the office here. San Diego is Qualcomm is headquartered at. Pradeep Mishra interviewed. He's a design person, and verification per lead was not there, and somebody else covered for him. I don't remember. There's one DFT person. His name is Raghu Bhattagiri. He interviewed me, and my manager was a David Hansquine. He's from Canada, I suppose. So he was my manager, first manager when I joined in Qualcomm. So he interviewed me, and there's one person from the physical design background. His name is Tom, and some last name I forgot the last name. His name is Tom, the first name. So these four people interviewed, and there's a HR interview. His HR name was Elizabeth Lopez, and she interviewed over email because she didn't. He was very busy. There are so many candidates they were interviewing, and so the interview was went on well. There's a lot of discussions. There's grilled a lot of basic questions. What I worked on, since I'm working on wireless LAN, the thing is a lot of questions on that. What I do, how do I manage the teams? Because at the time by the time I've set up two teams, right? Once in ECL, once in the previous company called Rendezvous on Chip. So a lot of discussions and things around like how I work and really good technical questions, and Qualcomm interviews are very detailed, right? So all those things happened, and it was a pretty tough interview to crack, and lot of analytical questions. And unfortunately, I don't remember. It was January 2004. Yeah, I couldn't remember, right? So a lot of people were interviewed. I don't know how many people turned. I have no idea. And I got an offer letter. I'll be happy to share the offer letter if you can keep it confidential. I think I was paid about 15, 16 lakhs or something, basically, right? That was the salary I got. I got negotiated. They gave me one more lakh or something. Around 16 lakhs was the salary. Salary at the time in 2004 when I joined, right? I joined in 2004, April 19th is where when I joined Qualcomm. That was my starting date. So this month, next week, if I have in Qualcomm, I would have completed how many years? 2004 means 23, right? So 31 years or whatever it is, right? 29 years or 31 years. I forgot. I'm a little weak in the mental arithmetic. 2004 to 2023, you can assume, right? So it's 31 years probably I would have completed in Qualcomm had I been in Qualcomm in this week, right? Maybe I quit 3 years before, whatever reason, right? So I joined on April 19th. So about 18 or 19 of us who joined, with all the software background, hardware people were just 4 people who joined. Myself, Gaurang Helikar, who is in Bangalore right now, Neelam Deshpande, and yeah, only and Chandrasekhar Patel. Right? There are 4 of us who joined for the hardware team. Rest 15 guys were one admin guy, and the rest are by guys were software guys. Right? There were about 10 to 15 people were joined. Qualcomm didn't have an office at that time in Hyderabad. So our induction program happened in a five-star hotel, Hotel Ramada International, whatever is the name, I forgot. The place called Begumpet in Hyderabad. So we were about for 1 week we came there and we did we went through all they explained about the company policies. They gave a general overview of how the things work and get us the login password and all those kind of things happened. And everything was new. Because they don't have any office here, right? So everything has to be done from scratch, right? So no training, nothing was provided. So they told you fly to San Diego, and we'll get you ramp up basically, right? That's what the first discussion happened because they cannot come to India and stay for 2 months or whatever. So we are asked to come there for 2 months or whatever it is, right? So yeah, so there's April 19th or so. So we joined, and yeah, so my daughter was the first Qualcomm India baby, right? She was born on I'm forgetting the date. My daughter will kill me. I think she was born on May 25th, actually. I remember. Sorry. I think, yeah, May 25th, 2004, my daughter was born. She was the first Qualcomm India baby, right? So I was one of the first few fortunate employees, original Qualcomm employees who joined in among the first 15 people, right? I don't know how many are there. And so we joined, and when the office was there, it was on a shed kind of thing, right? Makeshift office we had because the original building was under. If you know where the Qualcomm office, you can go to Google and check in Madhapur called Rahejava Tech Park or something. It is there today. You can check. It's grown like anything. They have more than 10,000 employees, or even more than that. I don't know, right? So they didn't have any head of engineering or something. One guy called Sudipto Roy, he was the acting thing, and his boss was one lady called Susie Armstrong, if I remember the name. So she was called Queen or whatever it is. Right? She was a senior vice president, right? And Sudipto Roy was acting India head. He was in the software team and he was in the DSP division, basically the software, right? He's a very nice guy, right? So he used to talk to me. He used to fly frequently to India every month. He used to interact with us, and he used to, because they are new, right? He used to understand what is the typical strategy sector in India. Because I was a manager already, I had already a 10 plus years of experience, right, at the time. Because I just started my career in 1993, this 2004. I had 11 years of experience. So he used to collect a lot of data from me. What are the best practices? What are the perks like happens in India? How things work? And a lot of questions I used to help him with whatever data I have, and that's how the trust builds in basically, right? And we flew to San Diego. Four of us, we flew to San Diego in business class. First time we traveled in business class. So three of us we traveled first on Gaurang Helikar. He had a visa problem. He came few days late. So four of us we went to San Diego. We did some work there. A lot of ramp up were happening. So there was a ship called Jaguar 130, right? So that was the first chip, 130 nanometer chip for designing at the time in 2004. So we were asked to do some work, some running regressions and debug some failures. And they had their own in-house tool, right, called QSIM 2. Like other time, the Verilog or System Verilog or SpecMan or E-language, these things are not very popular, right? They're still working on those kind of methodologies. So they're all running in their own language called QSIM 2, which is a homegrown internal tool. I worked a lot of work on that particular tool called Q stands for Qualcomm. Everywhere they put a Q in front of thing, right? So if you have a technical conference called Q Buzz, that's a technical conference. Every word you have a Q. Q stands for qual. Q is very unique, right? Q stands for quality. Quality communications is a Qualcomm, basically, right? So they have a Q in front of everything, right? Anything you conduct any games in the annual games, they call Q games, right? So everything is Q basically, right? Q Buzz and anything and everything they put a Q, right? So we flew in business class, and we were working on first program debugging the thing in the QSIM to add more tests in that particular using that internal tool, right? And that's a very cryptic tool to understand. There's a manual you have to go and understand. A lot of things doesn't work. There's a CAD methodology. There used a lot of wrappers written around that. The CAD methodology used to break. So we used to call, there's one Chinese called Han Yuan. So we used to call him, and half of thing what he says I can't understand. He's a Chinese, right? He talks very fast. I myself I talk very fast, and obviously he would have had problem in understanding me. And somehow I used to meet him at his face to face in San Diego, understand, and he used to fix the methodology for me. Some scripts doesn't work. Everything was done in Perl and things like that at the time. So he used to make fix the scripts and give it back to me, and we used to work. A lot of fun, interesting. I used to debug beyond the thing, right? Everything, and that's how we get our debug skills and we learn. We get the design knowledge, how a chip architecture is and how things work. We wrote tests, we debug the simulations. That was the very first assignment what we did. And while we are there, we are also work with another group, DFT group. DFT group was part of design group. There is no separate DFT group at that time. So my first, so David Hanscoin was my reporting manager, right? I sort of he interviewed me. He was my direct manager, and every week I used to have one-on-one meetings. So I used to meet him when I was in San Diego. So he used to be in a calendar. There is no Google Calendar or any Outlook calendar at that time. So they had their own tool for calendaring, some customized tool they had. So he used to put a meeting there. I had to go to his office on certain days in a week. So we used to spend half an hour. So he asked me what I did, what are the issues I'm facing. A lot of questions he used to ask, and I used to answer. And so he used to help also a lot. And so it was very good interactions. He was very helpful. He told me how to talk, whom I have to talk. So he used to guide like that. He's a very technical person. He used to talk technically also, right? And his manager name is Ziad Mansoor, right? So remember the names. So I think he must have retired along by now, right? David Unscoin also, I guess he retired, right? So he must have been like more than 60 by now, right? Yeah, so they're very, very nice people, and they treat us a lot. And Pradeep Mishra, I told, right, he was later on my manager, but he took good care of us when we were there. He used to take us out. If we go to any outing in his family, he used to take us for shopping. And we used to go to he used to call us to his house for his lunch or dinner and everything. So very, very nice. He used to have two kids, and I think his son name was Akash, I remember, and Akash Mishra, and I forgot the daughter's name. And very, very nice family. And his wife is Hindu, if I remember, Hindu Mishra or somebody, right? Maybe I may be wrong, but some similar name, right? So we had nice get-togethers, and he made us comfortable and things like that. So we have a concept called matrix management called Qualcomm. Your reporting manager is somebody, but you work for somebody else in a different team. So your technical lead is somebody, So he's called a matrix manager, right? So my first matrix manager was Robbie Everboo. So last J is silent. He's from Israel kind of thing. The Jew. He's a Jew basically, right? So Robbie, we always call him Robbie. He's Robert Everboo, whatever it is, but his nickname was Robbie. We also used to call him a very nice person, very simple person. He talks very slow, and he was part of memory based thing, right? So he was handling the memory based. So that is a customized memory based. So they have their own algorithms for controller, and there's a sequencer or whatever the name I forgot, right? So there's a lot of RTL they used to write, and verification with the uses of the QSIM 2, a lot of post processing with the Perl scripts and everything, right? So he used to. So after some time, we took over the entire the QMem-based environment. It's called QMem-based. I thought Q is for Qualcomm, right? It's called QMem-based, Qualcomm memory-based, right? QMem-based. So we implemented that QMem-based in few chips, right? And then after that, and when I came to Bangalore, so I was joined in Hyderabad, right? So when then the Qualcomm acquired company called Spike Technologies, head by a company person by name Pradeep Bajram. He became very good friend of mine in the later years, right? You can look at the campus to corporate webinar. I interviewed Pradeep Bajram. You can go and look at the webinar. I think I posted in the classroom. If you don't find that video, let me know, or go to YouTube channel called Campus to Corporate, Campus number numeral 2 and Corporate. In the YouTube channel, you'll be able to find out all the videos. What I 2020, I did a host bunch of webinars. So last session was where Dr. Kamakoti came as a chief guest, and I interviewed Pradeep, myself and another colleague of mine called Madhu. So we interviewed Pradeep Vajram, right? It was a great honor to interview Pradeep Vajram, right? So that's why I was asking some of you that you want to interview me, right? So I didn't get any response, unfortunately, right? So Pradeep Vajram was so they acquired the Spec Technologies, and we were asked to move to Bangalore. Again, like we had a lot of concern because I was living in Hyderabad for 11 years, whatever it's like. I had my own house there, flat. Still, I have a flat there, and so we were all worried. Like general like issue, we have to relocate. Bangalore is a very expensive city, but they asked her to come on the same salary they want to come. They have their own policy. They have to explain. HR trying to do their best to explain and how it works, and how things were, and we are worried about this. Like all other people, they come with a different background. There's a service company they acquired, right? They had 100 plus people at the time. They acquired for some $17 million or something, 17 or $19 million in 2004, right? So Pradeep Bajram was there, like he was heading the engineering operations. Ultimately we all moved. We listened to them. They didn't give us even 1 rupee hike, but they took care of the relocation. They were very fantastic. They took care of everything for us to or move to be comfortable, actually, right? So they put us in a very good hotel or a service apartment. They took care of everything. Royal treatment, right? They flew us the entire family in a flight to Bangalore, and they took care of us 2 weeks. They found a house for us. Whatnot. There's a royal treatment in Qualcomm, but the only thing you have to work. You have to work like anything. They treat you very well, right? But you also have to be nice, right? So we did that. So my first chip, what we taped out from Qualcomm Bangalore, was a 19 nanometer chip, nicknamed as Eagle, right? I cannot talk about what is the chip, obviously, but it's nicknamed as Eagle 90. So that's why I worked on, right? So we did again cube memory based. I was responsible for doing the memory based for the chip. So we implemented the memory based. We verified it at the chip level, and we had to generate the vectors for the silicon testing and everything. So we had to do that also. So a lot of end-to-end work on the memory based for the entire chip, right? So that was the first chip I did. Second chip was a 65 nanometer chip that was taped out from San Diego. We were also work on certain blocks. That chip was called Dora 65, and the chip lead for that chip was called Charlie Matar. He is from San Diego. He's one of the very senior person. So I worked on first 65 nanometer chip in Qualcomm. I worked, right? In other the year 2006 maybe, right? So 2006 or 7. So we were so happy on 65 nanometer, cutting edge technology at the time. We worked on the first 65 nanometer chip in Qualcomm, and it was a record. The chip was started working, and there was a huge party and everything. We were all given some mementos or whatever it is, like some T-shirts. We used to print T-shirts at every tape out in Qualcomm. That was a kind of habit what we had, right? So I have few T-shirts. Probably I'll send you a pic if you guys are interested to see, right? It'll have a lot of funny events I have. I don't know how much I can talk, right? So I'll try and spend about another 10 minutes, right? So we did the chip and a lot of chips. I lost count of how many chips I worked. I told you, right? So we worked on. So I worked on memory based for some time. Then I spoke with my Pradeep Vajram, who's heading the. He was a vice president of the India engineering team. So I went and chatted with him and told Pradeep, I've been in this field, but I want to work on chip design, right? So he was very nice. Okay, next chip we'll get you into a design team. You become chip integration lead, right? So they did a chip called. I think that was a 28 nanometer or 45 nanometer chip. I don't remember. Maybe a 28 nanometer chip. There are two platform chip. The two chip called Hawk and Coil, right? And there's a new methodology we are working as a platform. One database, but we had to tape out two chips. Very interesting concept called platform chips. So two chips were with one team we had to tape out two chips, right? But physical team was two teams, but front end teams were all one team, right? So I was a chip lead for a Hawk. And I was the first time, a lot of concepts were new, the timing concepts and everything were new. And I didn't, obviously, I did the well on the integration of the SOC and took care of all the verification requirements. I worked well on all the things, but well, doing the STA closure, it all I had to struggle, right? It was a lot of details for me. I was not the chip lead, I was integration lead, right? Chip lead was a name, person by name Ravi Narala. He was the chip lead for the Hawk, and I was more of a design lead for that particular chip. And I was working with another colleague of mine called Kanti Ghosh. So we are two person who were responsible for design, and Kanti Ghosh was junior to me, but he's a very brilliant guy, and he has a very good timing sense, and he managed the constraints and timing analysis and everything well. I used to take care of the DDR timing, and it's very difficult to close the DDR timing. I don't know what was the DDR technology at that time. The chip, I took care of the DDR timing closure. I worked with a person called Raghu Sankaratri in San Diego. He's a very nice person. So I worked on a couple of DDR things and things like that. So we did that tape out, and obviously I didn't do well the first chip, and it didn't go on well, and then I got into a different assignment, and that was my third assignment in Qualcomm. I took care of some IPs basically, right? Some DDR IPs, BP IPs, the CSI and DSI IPs, some few other IPs, right? So we had to, I forgot, right? So we had to respond for the integration of the IPs, timing closure, and everything, right? On the design set, I was doing that for some time, and then there was still I was holding the memory based also. Then I want to move out this to different role. I went by the time Pradeep Mishra had relocated to India. He was my manager, and I did a lot of other work apart from that time. I used to took training. I had a customer training lead, so I used to coordinate all the training needs, internal training, external vendor training, tool training, all kind of training I used to coordinate for the entire 100 plus team members. I did additional responsibilities. My manager was so happy. I got in a process how this should be done. Everything I end to end had. Apart from the work, I took other responsibilities also, and people were happy, right? And yeah, after that, after the assignment, I got another assignment. This was kind of very interesting. There's a major part of time I spent there. So it's called multimedia, right? Again, IP integration. We have to integrate the graphics core, video core, and we had graphics and video prominently, and there was a camera also maybe there. I don't remember. Camera also was there or not there. I don't remember. Two or three cores were there. Audio was there maybe, right? And there were 9 people including the manager, right? So Pradeep's problem was that he wants a manager to be technical. He doesn't want a manager to be just a people manager, right? So he got me in. My matrix manager there was a Steve Malloy. Very interesting personality. He's still there. He's working in Google now. You can go and check in LinkedIn. Or this name, you can go and check. Don't give us connect request, but go and look at the profile. Yeah, it doesn't look right, but yeah. So his name is Steve Malloy. He's one of the top people in Google, and he became very friendly with me because he liked my style of working, how I work technically, how I manage the things technically, and he said this is what exactly I wanted, which was lacking before, right? So the 9-member team became 8-member team. So I had to be technically hands-on. I had to manage the team. I had to every week. I used to have a weekly meeting with Steve Malloy. He used to come. I used to report to him, and the graphics core was from ATA graphics, which was acquired by AMD later on, right? So I used to have a weekly meeting with ATI, who was a vendor who used to supply IP. We used to integrate that third-party IP into our chips. So we used to have meeting with Scott Billick, who was my representation, but they had one more person. I forgot his name. I'm not able to recall it on the fly. We used to work with Scott Billick. He's still a good friend of mine. He's in LinkedIn. He's very active in LinkedIn, and we used to chat about what issues we had and everything. So we worked closely with him. And the graphics integration was nightmare. I'll do a separate talk on that. Right? It's very nightmare, and we had a lot of debug. Post-silicon issues. We debugged many issues. On simulation issues, we had a lot of issues on front end. Integration was a challenge, right? And the verification simulations were a challenge. At IP level verification, SOC level simulation was a challenge. Post-silicon debug was the biggest challenge. We had a revisions happen because of graphics issues, and we had customer issues happen because of RMA. RMA, what do we call? Call whatever return material analysis, whatever I forgot the name. We used to call RMAs. When customer report back an issue, we have to debug and find out the root cause. We have to give a patch and we have to give a solution to that, right? So we had a lot of RMA issues, yield fallout issues, whatnot, right? Lot of issues we did graphics and we worked on. So it's given I don't know, it gave me a limelight, but yeah, people would have scolded me for like failing also, but that's how you learn. We made a very grave mistake and we had to do a tape out. I flew to US to debug that problem. We sat in the lab, and the Scott Billick also flew from, he was in East Coast, wherever he lives in East Coast, he flew in. Myself and one of my, the chip leader was called Pradeep Atur. Again, you can look him in LinkedIn. He's still in Qualcomm in a very senior position, right? He's a very great friend of mine, right? We did a lot of debug and we find a issue and so that was issue. I'll tell you in a high level. It was there is something called gate level simulation. If you had listened to my lectures, you would have found something called gate level simulation. So we had some bugs basically on gate level simulation. So, so we didn't notice that we used to put a force constraint. We put a force command to make a simulation pass. One of the lead engineer who was responsible for that, he did a bad job. Nobody noticed that the chip was not working finally, right? When you bring up, it was not working. You know what? Something doesn't work, what happens, right? We all get beaten up, right? So I flew myself and Pradeep Bajram, we flew to San Diego and the graphics guy came from ATA Graphics. We spent 2 weeks debugging and he debugged inside the graphics core. You debug this, you debug that. We did a lot of things. We tried to recreate in simulations. One of my friend Ashish Mishra was working on the Bangalore site. I used to exchange information. And there was used to be a bridge, they call async bridge, AXA to AXA bridge was defined by one more person in Qualcomm. That was our in-house IP what we developed. The person name was something else. I forgot. He's a Chinese guy, right? I don't remember his name. I have to recollect, right? And we worked with him, and he developed the IP sometime before. And so that particular IP had a bug, right? So it was some control logic was generating. The control logic was not a resetted, right? Which is a grave mistake. If you know what is digital design, all your control logic must be reset to known values during reset time, right? That was not done there, and it could have caught in gate simulation, but since we kind of forced all the simulation, that my lead did a mistake there, which I'm responsible of that anyway, right? So that was a bug, right? The chip was already made, it was not working, but my other friend, my other colleague, Ashish Mishra, he could recreate the bug, right? And we could fix the issue basically because of that, right? We could find the issue and we could fix the issue, right? And we did a metal tape out because of that. We fixed it. We had to reanalyze this. We had to explain to the management what is the let's come the root cause analysis to happen. Why did we slip? There's a process quality and process team. We have to explain to them why did we slip? How can we prevent from other chips by not doing the same mistakes? There's a huge process. You have to create a lot of documents and it's a pain. You have to explain to your senior VPs the meeting why it happened, what happened. Multiple times we've had issues because of 3D graphics and 2D graphics, right? So a lot of interesting stories I have to have tell. Like all this great. We are all these mistakes in post silicon and simulations is a very challenging time, right? So it's a lot of debug I've done in multimedias, and I'll probably do a part two of that if you are interested later on. So we will do that later. I'll end this particular thing. I already spoke for 20 minutes or so. I'll just end this thing at the story of the graphics, right? If you are interested, we'll do the next part 4. Bye bye.